I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So touch the leg to everyone, wherever you are, whatever may be your time. so, so the first thing that you should do is smile a little bit. Right? Okay, so we were reading these 10 things to give up, and we are now reading the third point, which says, abandon solitude of many harms and habitat with great distraction. So that means he's saying two things. One, give up that place or habitat where there is a lot of distraction. Second, give up that place of solitude which has a lot of harms. So these two should be referred to two different things. A place where there's a lot of distraction and a place of solitude where there's a lot of harm. So place or habitat here means, it is of course not talking about a solitude or a monastery. Actually, this Tibetan word gomba, which can also mean monastery, which can also mean solitude. So for the sake of easier understanding, I use the word solitude. But it can also refer to a monastery, because in ancient times, the monasteries were normally constructed a little bit far away from the cities and from the towns. So now in the case of the place where you are staying, even if it is not a monastery, so it doesn't really have to be far away from the cities and towns in general. But this place now should be referred to a place like, for example, a temple, which is there in the city, in the town, where you do your listening, contemplation, meditation. Since that place is quite close to the town or the city, there will be the disadvantage of having a lot of distractions. Now, in the case of a monastery or a place of solitude, which generally speaking should be far away from the cities and towns, so that place is basically very suitable for contemplation and meditation, just like a hermitage. But still, because it is too far from the cities and towns and other people, it may have a lot of harms. Harms from wild animals, or harms from robbers and thieves. So in these two places where when you do your practice and meditation so forth in a place where there's a lot of distraction, then instead of you're being able to do listening and meditation, you will end up going up, going down, going towards all directions, attending to people's needs, you will end up doing many, many different kind of activities. That's what we all experience because we all stay closer to a town or city. So you will end up doing so many things. So here what is really suggested is even if you are living in a city or a town, make sure that you don't just go up and down unnecessarily. For your day-to-day needs, of course, you have to go to market. I went to market today. So that is necessary, of course. But otherwise, make sure that you don't, end up going up and down and pass your time like that. Because as we discussed earlier, there is really not much time in doing Dharma practice. Even in your own room, you have to do cleaning and cooking and things like that. Then tired, a little bit sleeping. So not much really, not much time is left to uh, do the practice. And as this just Sineji said right in the beginning, these few sessions of teaching went so quickly. Actually, it is 1 month, not 1 month teaching, but 4 weeks, So it went quickly. So in this way, year will pass, month will pass, and we have no idea how the year passed, how the month passed. And in this way, we all become an old man and old women without having any quality of listening to the Dharma, any quality of having done meditation. And in this way, we'll end up our life just like a stupid sheep, animal. So in this way, you may miss this opportunity to do something good for many lives to come. Now, even in the case of a place of solitude like a monastery, which is a little bit far away from the cities and towns, there may not have much distraction, but it will have a lot of external and internal harms. Externally, there may be, as I mentioned earlier, there may be enemies, there may be thieves, and there may be ferocious animals, and it may be a place where robbers and thieves frequent, and it may have like snakes. It may even have leeches and mosquitoes. So if it is a place with so many of these harmful, you know, sentient beings, and then in on top of that, if the place is also not very open, and it's either too hot or too cold, where you almost end up dying, then then the water is not suitable to you, the place is not suitable to you, because it breeds many kind of illnesses and diseases, and then you can't do your practice, can't do your meditation. So therefore, in Sutra Alamkara, it is said that the intelligent person who does his business practice should be a place where he can easily find his food and other day-to-day requirements. And then it should be a place with less harms and with less, bugs. And it should be a place where you have other spiritual practitioners with whom you can talk and consult. So it is good to move into a place of solitude, but don't isolate yourself so much so that you may get all these harms, and it may be difficult for you to consult anybody there, right? So if you stay in such a place, then this will become a big obstruction for your practice. Okay. And now, as far as the monasteries is concerned, in ancient times, monastery, as I mentioned earlier, has to be a little bit far away from the cities and towns. But these days, most of the monasteries are now situated in cities and towns. I visited Thailand. Thailand, it is also like that. I visited Sri Lanka. It is also like that. In Tibetan monasteries, also are now not so far away from cities and towns. They are actually uh, situated in amidst those cities and towns. Now, when you are, stationed in such cities and towns, then even in the so-called monastery, supposed to be a place of solitude, there will be a lot of distraction. You will not get time to listen, time to read, time to think. You may be harassed by the king. You may be harassed by the leader. or you may be taken into all kind of directions by a bad lama or bad teacher. So in this case, there are also monasteries or place of solitude which you should give up. It doesn't mean you should stay there. So whether you call it a place of solitude, whether you call it a monastery, so long as your practice is not going well, if there's a lot of harms and distractions, then it's better you leave that place. Right? But the most important thing is not just the place, it is how you live. For example, in my own case, I live alone, of course, and I find a lot of time, nobody disturbing me. Very peaceful, very quiet. So it is much has to do with yourself. If you make many friends, invite them, then start partying, going out, and then continue to go for lunch, go for dinner, it will be endless. When I was translating for His Holiness, my residence was near the Kalachakra temple, which is really like very close to everybody going for circumambulation, going to visit the temple and so forth. And since they know that I'm His Holiness translator, so they would come and knock my door, ask all kind of questions. So then also many people invite me to come for dinner, come for lunch. Very, very hectic, very busy, useless, you know, hectic. But now here in the library, luckily my residence is also a little bit separated from others, and then of course if there is an appointment, I normally do it during the office hours, not during my weekend days. So therefore, I find a lot of time, very peaceful. Even if I'm unable to do practice, I just get a very good nap, very good sleep. That's also good, right? That's also good. So you can also have that. This is important. Okay. And then even in the monastery, sometimes you encounter a very bad guide, bad teacher. And then there are teachers who would develop jealousy among with other teachers. So again, whether you call it a monastery, whatever you call it, we are a group of people. When group of people not so healthy come together, there will always problem. So therefore, it is better to go alone and to do your practice. Next point is abandon a livelihood obtained through theft, robbery, deceit, and cunningness. Right? So deceit and cunningness. Yuju, in Tibetan we call it yuju. So deceit is hiding one's faults, and cunningness is pretending to have qualities that one does not have. Okay? So give up those kind of livelihood. So in terms of your facilities, supposed to be facilities for your dharma practice, those facilities, those material, collections, you should make sure that they are uh, not stolen. Of course, you will not directly steal things. It should not be something that you have directly stolen or asked somebody to bring it for you, or something that has been offered, something that has been offered to you, but the one who is offering himself or herself is a thief. There are many people who do that. They make a lot of money through all kind of bad means, and then in order to show that they're a great practitioner, great benefactor, they make those offerings to monks, which is again not a healthy thing, right? And then stealing or theft means using anything which is not given to you. So that means use your power and get something from other people. That is also theft. Or with nice words, flatter somebody, to get something. Then if you get it, there's also theft. Then, of course, the ordinary sense of stealing, which is you quietly go and take something from other people's house and so forth. So there are many, anything. So stealing means taking those things which is not given to you, right? So now, for example, if you go to a public garden and plug a flower, plug a nice flower and take it home, is that theft? So what I mean to say is it is important to think that all those things which is supposed to be public utilities, that also to some extent you may have a little bit of share, but these things does not belong to you alone. So you cannot misuse them, right? That's important. Okay. And if you steal, then of course you will get bad name. And not only you should not steal, but you should not associate with thieves and robbers. Because if you go with thieves and robbers, people will think that you are also one of those thieves, one of those robbers. So it's always important to distance yourself from negative people. Now, even if you don't steal or don't rob somebody, but if you get something, as we already mentioned, through cunningness, through deceit and through cunningness, through deceit means hiding one's own fault and then try to get something, right? That's deceit. And then cunningness here means that you pretend that you have those qualities which you don't have, right? For example, even if I'm not practicing, even if I'm not practicing, but if I tell people that I do a lot of practice and I'm very busy with my practice, I don't get time to make money or get food. So if you say things like that, then you might get some sponsor or some benefactor. Whereas in reality, if you're not practicing, then that is also theft. That is also theft. It's really possible to commit. Or similarly, if you say, okay, I'm constructing a stupa, constructing a big temple, I don't have money, and then get a lot of money, you may use that money a little bit, but much of it goes in your pocket. That's also theft. So we need to be very, very careful, right? So in other words, whatever money things that you earn by deceiving and cheating other people through cunningness, through deceit, or through hypocrisy, through flattery, or through hinting, or by taking by force, or giving something so that you get something bigger in return, these are all wrong livelihood. But if somebody sincerely with faith offers something to you, then of course that is not called wrong livelihood. So here we are just talking about theft and robbery and so forth. But in other cases also, by killing somebody, if you get the possession of that person, the wealth of that person, that is also stealing. That is also stealing. And then as we mentioned earlier, that if you also tell lie, now with the lie that we tell, there are many types of lie. Small lies, big lies. Big lies means that I have clairvoyance. I foresee things. Many people do that. So that is also, then based on that, people make offerings. That is also stealing. And then also using those things that is offered to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. That also is stealing. Okay. And then even if you, like in ancient times, the monks used to go to beg for their food, go for alms. So there also you should eat whatever is given. You cannot choose by saying that this is not suitable to me, I can't eat, make a better food, things like that. As we say, beggars are not choosers, right? Then, okay, then the fifth one is abandon works and activities that harm one's mind and experience. So that means abandon those works that harm your mind and those activities that harm your experience. So this is saying that not only you should give up wrong livelihood, but you should also give up certain types of activities which is harmful to you and harmful others. For example, those works that is harmful to your mind, those activities that's harmful to your experience. Generally speaking, work and activity, there's not much difference, but here work here means the ordinary worldly work, worldly activities. Activities here means dharma activities, religious activities. Okay, so that means give up those activities, those works that harm your mind. Means if you engage in too many activities of going up, going down, doing this, doing that, and then you will be mentally disturbed. So give up those kind of activities, those kind of works, right? The more you engage in many kind of things, the more your mind will be disturbed. So therefore, all those worldly activities, which is harmful, you must give up. That this is the meaning. For example, as Shantideva says in his Bodhicharya Avtara, for example, in the case of anger, when your mind is not settled well, especially when your mind is unhappy, that unhappiness of the mind is food for anger. You get angry when you're unhappy. So unhappiness is the food for anger. So therefore, as a practitioner, you should starve that anger by not giving the food of unhappiness. Now, even in the case of the second point, give up those activities which will harm your experience, meaning that even if it is a religious activity, dharma activity, but when you are trying to achieve one-pointed meditation, at that time, instead of trying to achieve one-pointed meditation, if you engage in all kind of physical and verbal activities of talking and going up and down, uh, or you start something, leave it unfinished, then start another one, right? So all this will become hindrance and obstruction to your practices. So therefore, in the Lamrim also, for example, uh, if your particular practice that you are doing right now is making a connection with the spiritual teacher, then just focus on that, right? So instead of that, if you meditate on calm abiding or even bodhicitta, that's harmful at this point. That's not conducive at this point. Of course, later on, of course, all these are to be practiced. But when you try to specialize or achieve some result in one thing, then just focus on that. Otherwise, you will start small things here and there. In the end, you have nothing. And that is not only a problem in spiritual practice, but in our ordinary practice also, ordinary ways of life also. We do small things here and there. We are not good in anything. We know a little bit, not much. Jack of all, master of none, as we say, right? So therefore, it's really, really important. And I personally think this is really, really important. For example, if you spend some time, at least few months or something, just to develop or just to get a really good feeling of compassion. If you're able to do that, then after that, your practice on loving kindness, your practice on bodhicitta, your meditation, wisdom, understanding, emptiness, everything will be better. If you don't get yourself established in one practice and then just like a monkey jumping from one tree to another tree, at the end you have nothing. So this is what he's saying. Even in the case of dharma activities, you should focus on one thing. As Atisha also says, if your practice is to achieve mental equilibrium, then at that time you should relax your verbal and physical spiritual practices. For example, if you're especially focusing on practice of giving or generosity, at that time you should relax your focus on practice of morality. Right? That's important. Because if you achieve one thing properly, then everything will be achieved properly. Otherwise, you will lose both. You will lose both. So this is like there's one uh, hermit, meditator from Kagyu tradition, who came from Tibet. Some of you must know. He has this big hair on his head. So I heard him saying the same thing, which is actually from Sajapindita, where he says, without having completed the first one, if you try to practice another one, this will only lead to exhaustion, not being able to achieve any. For example, when your one foot is not firmly placed on the ground, if you try to lift both the feet, you will fall down. Or it's like trying to dance, moving the head and hands without having your feet on the ground firmly. Right? Next, 6. Abandon or give up behaviors and food that harm one's constituents. Constituent here means that this body is dependent on the 4 elements. 4 elements. So you should take those food or live those ways of life which is suitable so that you are able to remain free from illness and live a long life, and thereby you are able to make meaning of this precious human life. Now, in the case of the food, for example, if you consult a doctor and if the doctor gives you the advice that you should eat this kind of food, not this kind of food, then you should listen to that. Or based on your own experience. I think I mentioned this earlier. Based on your own experience, some of this food, some of these drinks does not suit you, then it is important not to take those again. Many times, unfortunately, just to please the tongue, we take all kind of things, sweet, salty, things like that. Then we become sick. So be very careful. There's no need to give a lot of explanation here, but the most important thing is you should be so careful before you get sick. You should be very careful before you get sick. Once you get sick, then you will be in the hand of the doctors. And you can't expect all the doctors nice and philanthropist, It's understandable. They will be looking for money. And in the worst case, you might end up meeting a doctor who will tell you that you have this kind of illnesses when you don't have those illnesses, just to take extract money. That's also possible. So you need to be very, very careful. Because if you get physically sick, then forget about any spiritual practice. Then in terms of physical activities also, sometimes we do hear that it's important for you to walk, right? Yes, walking is important. But if you walk too much, it's not good. Especially walking is good when you're physically active. But walking too much is dangerous and not good for elderly people, right? There should be limit depending upon your age. When your bodies are not so flexible, then you can't just do exactly like how you used to do when you were young. So you need to know your status. or sitting too much at one place, not even getting up. This is another source of illness in the modern world, because we all sit before the computer, sit on the chair. So I have been telling my staffs that you should at least, even if you're unable to do any exercise, at least get up from the chair. In 1 hour, you should at least get up one time and just stretch yourself a little bit. That itself is very, very beneficial for your body. So this process of uh, living is taught in the Tibetan medicine also. Because if you continue to sit all the time, not going up and down, then your legs will stop functioning. Tibetan doctors, Western doctors, they all say the same thing, because this body has to move. Our origin is long time back. Our origin is we are animals. Animals, they always have to go up and down hunting. So it has to be active. So we have inherited that brain. So it's important to move. But again, as I mentioned earlier, uh, with moderation, anything, moderation. Food also, for example, some people say, oh, this food is very good. Good in what sense? Yes, it may be good in one sense, but not necessarily good all the time for everything. People say, okay, turmeric is good, but if you keep on eating a lot of turmeric, you'll get sick. People say, oh, put a little bit of ginger in the tea, it's so good. Yes, a little bit is good, but if you take too much ginger, it's bad for other parts of your body. So use your common sense and have moderation in everything. So therefore, in the case of Buddhist practitioners, for example, if you're a hermit, then in your small, cave also you should do some exercise. If you're a practitioner, then of course you can do Naropa's 6 yoga practices and things like that. Do some exercise or prostration, full length prostration or half length prostration. Do that. So according to the time, even the practitioners should do exercises. And this is not contradictory to the monastic discipline. In the Vinaya, the monastic discipline also says that in a place of solitude, you should train yourself in swimming. This is also taught in the Vinaya, monastic discipline. In place of solitude means that if it is a place, for example, a swimming pool, where everybody comes, men, women, everybody comes, then, for example, if a monk goes there, it doesn't look nice. But in a more quiet place of solitude, you can swim and do your exercises. Okay. So in this way, you should give up those food and conducts or behaviors which is harmful, and instead you should rely upon those food which is beneficial and ways of life which is beneficial. Now, the question is, if this is the case, then you need facilities. Then are you saying that you should work very hard to accumulate those wealth and those facilities and develop some kind of attachment to those facilities? So this is explained in point 7. Abandon grasping and attachment that are bound by desirous aspiration and miserliness. So give up craving. Having something is not the problem. Bodhisattvas can have as many as possible, so that they can, give it to many, many other people. So having things is not the problem. The problem is your attachment and your craving, your grasping. So therefore, give up attachment, grasping. This grasping attachment comes because of stinginess, miserliness, which comes from your uh, longing to have those things, your desirous, longing, aspiration. So therefore, whether it's your food or your way of life, it should be free from two extremes. It should be the middle way, just as the Buddha did. Buddha suggested that you do not lead a life of luxury and also do not lead a life of extreme poverty. Very, very important. Very, very important. Whether it's your food, whether it's your way of life, whether it's your philosophy, they should all be the middle way. So what is being said here is motivated by desire to have something. So motivated by desire towards any sensual objects, right? Abandon grasping and attachment that are bound by desirous aspiration. Desirous aspiration means with attachment. You try to own those sensual objects. So that's the motivation. Now, stinginess and miserliness means with that kind of attachment, you collect certain material things, you have it, then after that, you tightly hold on to it, and you are unable to give it to others. You are unable to part it to others, right? You just hold it. So that is stinginess. Stinginess means even if you are not going to eat it, still you will not give it to others. This happens with us all the time. There may be many things. There may be many things which we have collected and which has been lying with us for the last many, many years, which you have never used, but still you think, I will use it one day, but that one day will never come. At the same time, there are many, many people who are dying to have those things which you are not using. So we should learn to part and give up those things. Because now is the time to give things. At the time of death, even if you say, okay, I'm leaving all these things to you, no thanks, because nothing else you can do. At the time of the death, it's not giving. You're just leaving it. You have to leave it behind. But right now, you're not dying, right? So right now if you give something, you're giving it voluntarily. So that has a lot of benefit. So at the end, whether you like it or not, you have to leave everything. This is clearly mentioned in Shadideva's Bodhisattva Avtara. Since sooner or later we have to give everything, why don't you give things right now? Right? Then grasping and attachment here means things that you found earlier, the possessions, material things that you found earlier. Not only you are not able to give it to others, but you are also not able to use it for yourself. This is doubly bad because you have something important, you are unable to give it to others. Okay, understandable. Even if you are not able to give it to others, you should yourself use it, right? And there are many people who don't even use it. So what is the goodness of this thing that you collected, which is uh, this is equal to having nothing, because it's of no benefit to others. It's of no benefit to you. Not only that, you will get a lot of headache by just collecting and collecting, right? So therefore, one Tibetan master, he said, I will not talk about the great many benefits of giving, but I will talk about the great many faults of not holding. So we need to start practicing that, because there are many, many less privileged people who need this, who need that. So give something to them. Okay? Grasping and craving. Not grasping, actually, the exact translation should be something like holding. And the next is craving. Craving means You may have found certain material things, but you are not satisfied with that amount, but you want to get more. If you have one umbrella, when you have no umbrella, you start thinking, I need one umbrella, especially during the rainy season. Then you buy one umbrella. Then you start thinking, oh, this umbrella is really umbrella for rain. I need a smaller, lighter umbrella for when I go into the sun, right? And then you buy one. Then after that, I'm now saying this according to my experience. then, then, then in places like Dharamsala, it's so much heavy. The rain is so heavy. Then you start thinking, okay, this umbrella that I bought is really too small. You buy a bigger one, right? So you end up having so many umbrellas. So to some extent, maybe justified, but really, this is how we end up collecting and piling up so many things. And especially in addition to our inborn grasping and craving, this grasping and craving is further fueled by modern advertisement. Because in the modern advertisement, they say that you should have one shoes, you should have sport shoes for playing, table tennis or whatever. Then it says you definitely need another shoes for rock climbing or mountain when you go to the mountain. And then it says, oh yeah, you definitely should have another one when you go to bathroom, right? So so in addition to your inborn grasping, clinging, and so forth, it is further strengthened by modern advertisement. So you need to be a little bit careful. Okay. And especially in the case of monastics, uh, it is really not at all good to go so much after uh, collecting material things. Because if you have those collections of material things where you develop a lot of craving and attachment, then there will always be the problem thinking, even if you go a little bit far away from your place, you might worry thinking that, oh, I have all these important things in my home, so I need to put a double lock or put somebody to look after that. Otherwise, it will be stolen, things like that. You have to worry about so many things. It will be lost, it will be stolen, things like that. And not only that, even if somebody says not so nice word about the things that you have, you get angry. For example, if you bought a new car and you wanted others to praise about this car, oh, the model is so good, color is so good. You want other people to talk good things about that. But if somebody says, oh, I don't like the model, then you get upset, you get angry. So that's the problem with having all these kind of collections, right? So the problem is not really the material thing. Problem is your thinking, your attachment, your craving, your grasping. And then contrarily, if you don't care too much about all these collections, of course you need food for your survival, and you need clothes. You can't go naked, right? So you need clothes. So therefore, in the Buddha's teaching, it is said that the food should be taken as a medicine. Food is in fact a kind of medicine, right? And then also in terms of clothes, the clothes should be seen like a bandage. When you have a wound, when you hurt yourself, when you wound, then of course this should be, doesn't look nice. It is hurting, so therefore you put a bandage on it. So similarly, the cloth we wear is a bandage. And generally speaking, of course, you will not develop attachment to the bandage. But nowadays, I've seen people are so overly unnecessarily clever. The bandage also, some of them are so nice, so colorful these days. So you will develop attachment to the bandage on your wound. So in that sense, what I'm saying is, in a way, it is good to make other people feel good. But in other way, in other sense, we are so like. So unnecessarily clever in making the appearance look nice. Nobody cares about the reality behind it. Today I was reading again some books about the Buddha's life story again. And then there the Buddha was able to see clearly, okay, what I've been seeing is just the appearance. The reality is sickness, death, old age, things like that. So he said, I need to make a big decision. I cannot just ask permission from my teacher to go into the mountain, which he will probably not give me the permission. He said, I need to make my decision. And even when his son was born, Rahula was born, on a second thinking, he said, oh, this is another additional fetter, additional bondage, right? So from a larger perspective, the more you have, be it your belongings, be it your money, be it your friends or relatives, the more you have, the more you'll get problem. So this is not to say throw everything. This is not to say don't make any friendship, but there should be a middle way. Not too much. Most of the time you should try to live by yourself. Know yourself. It is more important to know yourself than know other people. It's more important to know your mind than just knowing your body. Your body is something that you can see, but your mind is something that you don't see. So we don't have any idea about the mind, how it functions. We don't have much idea about the emotions, you see. It is because of this we end up fiddling with this physical related activities, right? Right? So therefore, Buddhist practice means transforming the mind, changing the mind. So to do that, you need to sit with yourself alone and do meditation, mindfulness, and so forth. And watch your emotion, watch your feeling, watch your thinking, watch your senses. That's the way. That's the way. Okay. Okay. Then number 8, abandon or give up heedless or frivolous behaviors that may cause others to lose faith. So that means whether you're a monk or any other practitioner, one very important practice that you should do is do not do those activities which will make other people displeased. This is almost like a summary of very important teaching. Do not do anything which will make other people lose their faith in you or in the Dharma. For me, this is almost like summary of many practices. So this is what he's saying, that give up those heedless ways of life, which is really the cause for other people to lose their faith. For example, even in the case of ordained monk, when that monk or nun has a lot of attachment to sensual objects, then of course he or she will be distracted. And in that distraction, he or she will live all kind of frivolous or heedless activities, careless activities. For example, because of your attachment uh, to food, you might gradually end up cultivating the land, right? And if you do that, then this will create, you know, other people unhappy and develop, lose their faith. So, as much as possible, distance yourself from eight worldly activities or hypocrisy. So be it in terms of how you dress up, how you walk, it should be in accordance with the teaching. This is explained in detail in Shantideva's Bodhicharya Avatara. How to walk, whether you should look back or not, how you should take rest, how you should eat your food. For example, even when you eat your food, it should not make a lot of sound, Not like that. So all this is explained not only in Vinaya, but also Shantideva's Bodhicharya Avatar, it is explained, you see. So you should not do everything that you like in the name of freedom. You should see whether this is really good uh, in the presence of other people or not. So what are those careless, heedless activities which will lose faith in the mind of other people? In Vinaya, there are a lot of restrictions that is given to the monks. You can't do this, you can't do that, because if you do this, if you do that, then people will lose their faith. So therefore, don't do any of those activities which contradict your 253 precepts in the case of a monk. Or in other words, for all of us, as is explained in Nagarjuna's letter to the friend, do not engage in gambling or do not join a crowd to see different performances or do not remain in laziness. Do not rely upon bad friends. Do not drink, do not engage in intoxicant drinks, and do not move in the night up and down. These are the six uh, activities. If you do, your fame and name will also be harmed. For example, gambling means whether it's the dice gambling or mahjong, as we say in the Chinese case, or even the cards, playing cards. If you just play it for the sake of fun, it's okay. But many people, when they, give a lot of money, so there's gambling. And especially if this is done by the monks and nuns, then of course lay people will lose their faith. And then watching something in a big crowd where there's a lot of songs and singings and dances. So there also, of course, everybody can go, but monks and nuns actually should not. They can go, nobody can stop them completely, but it's best not to go there. Not only monks and nuns, if you're a sincere practitioner, then these performances and sights are of not much meaning. Not much meaning, right? And this you will realize when you grow older. The many things that you enjoy when you are young, even if you're not a Dharma practitioner, but when you grow older, you will realize many of these things are meaningless. Today I was invited to join a picnic. So first I said, yeah, I will come definitely. It's my old monastery, so I thought I'll go there. And then at the last minute, judging my own age and also small things that I need to do, then I said, oh, it's better that I just sit quiet in my own room. So I said, I'm sorry, I'll not be able to come. I'm very busy. Right? And then laziness. There are people who doesn't care whether it's morning or evening or night. You'll find them sleeping most of the time like a pig. Right? and they will not miss the lunch and dinner and other, you know, occasions for eating and sleeping. Then this is really like peak, not doing any dharma practice, right? Then associating with negative friends. That means if you have a friend who is a butcher, who is a thief, or people who have wrong view, if you go with them, then gradually you will also start developing doubt towards the usefulness of dharma practice. And today in the world, there are so many people, so-called, educated people uh, in developed countries. When they look at the Buddhist practices and things that we do without any proper knowledge, they might think, oh, they're wasting their time. They might think like that. Because for them, the best thing is to eat, sleep, socialize. Then they think this is like freedom and amazing and wonderful. They have no sense of uh, the future lives. They have no sense of bodhicitta, no sense of wisdom, understanding, emptiness, you know. So it's very difficult to appreciate those things. Okay. Then taking intoxicant drinks. This is, of course, not permitted to the monks and nuns. And even in the case of householders, it only has faults and no quality at all. Because if you take these intoxicant drinks, you might get intoxicated. And I've been telling people you don't have to get intoxicated. You're already intoxicated by negative emotions. Then moving in the night. Moving in the night has only two objectives. One is to steal or to engage in sexual misconduct. So therefore, this is also discouraged. Point 9. Abandon meaningless works and activities of going and sitting. And this is more or less we discussed earlier. So in short, he's saying that give up all careless, heedless activities. So he's basically summarizing what he has already explained earlier. Whether it's worldly activity or religious activity, uh, you should give up meaningless activities of going up and down. If there is a reason, then of course, uh, there is a Tibetan saying that if you engage in too much going and sitting, you'll be caught by dogs, right? Similarly, if you know, you don't take care of your mouth, you will end up fighting with others, arguing with others. Similarly, if you engage in the activities of taking too many things in your hand, your hand might get hurt. So whether it's worldly activity or dharma activity, make sure that you give up those meaningless activities. So here in this case, the work means worldly activity, worldly work, and activities means religious activities. Even in the case of worldly activities, there are people who, without any reason, they'll just dig the ground and cut the tree and cut the grass. Sometimes may be necessary, but we see some people who are just they don't think. They keep on doing the same thing again and again just to pass their time, or they are under the impression that they are doing something, but this will give them nothing, right? And then in terms of dharma activities also, it may look like a dharma activity, but if you are going a lot of hardship, which brings no benefit to yourself, then it's of no benefit. All right, then number 10, abandon proclaiming others' faults while hiding your own faults. Hiding your own fault and proclaiming others' fault. Don't do that. So this means not only you have to give up bad physical activities, and in terms of your verbal activities also, you should give up all kind of verbal negative deeds. So this is the meaning here. Meaning that if you engage in a lot of talking, a lot of verbal activities, you will end up uh, collecting a lot of negative deeds. This is explained in Buddha's Ratana Mega Sutra. Because if you engage in too much talking, you will then not be able to do Dharma practice properly. And your mind will become very rough, and you will not be able to achieve success in your shamatha and vipassana practice. These are the faults of delighting in talking. There are people who are unable to stay quiet even for a short time. They just keep on talking, And His Holiness the Dalai Lama and many great teachers, they say, you should listen more and talk less. If you listen more, you will learn many things from other people. You just keep on talking, you will not learn anything. And then also I tell people that you have 2 ears, only one mouth. That means listen more, speak less, talk less. Okay? And especially in the case of talking and speaking, hiding your own fault and then talking about the faults of others. That is wrong. If possible, proclaim your faults and hide other people's fault. Don't talk about other people's fault, especially unnecessarily. Right? We delight in talking about other people's shortcomings. That should not be there. And as a beginner, if you're not able to do that, then at least try not to talk about bad qualities of other people and let it remain hidden, just like you hide your own faults. Because when you talk about other people's faults, that other people may be a bodhisattva, maybe a very special person. And then because of your perception, if you say bad things about that person, this will accrue many negative deeds. So therefore, even if you're unable to speak good qualities of other people, at least refrain from highlighting their faults. Let it remain at its neutral state. The funny thing is, in our case, you are unable to see those host of faults that you have within yourself. And when it comes to faults of other people, even if there is a small minor fault, you are very good in pinpointing it. Today I was reading a short piece somewhere. Then there was somebody who put a big white paper on the wall, and then on that white wall he put a small black dot. And then he asked people who came there, "What do you see?" Everybody said, "I see this small black dot." There's this huge white paper. They're not seeing it. They're only seeing that black dot. So this is the problem, you see. This is the problem. I don't know why we are so good in pinpointing the faults of others. And if you're so good in pinpointing your own fault, you might get enlightened very quickly. Right? So don't be like a butter lamb. In Tibetan, we say, don't be like a butter lamb. The butter lamb, when you lead a butter lamb, the light from that butter lamb illuminates all the surroundings. But underneath that butter lamp, it's darkness. right? So don't be like a butter lamp. Don't be like a butter lamp. Okay? So if you keep on highlighting other people's fault all the time, then how can you have harmony? How can you make friendship? Right? Okay. So we stop here today. Some questions?
Geshe, we had some questions.
Yeah.
The first question is, when we meditate, why it happens on one day we are better focused on our breathing, but on some days we are too distracted.
Yeah, that is the way the mind is, because you may be tired, you may be thinking about something else, you may not have much interest today. So it depends on many factors. Because even our body, doesn't remain same all the time. Sometimes you are getting some kind of headache, and because of that, the mind is also not clear. Sometimes you feel, your body, you feel very well, and the mind also very alert and sharp, and you feel like practicing. So in some cases, you need to judge why this is so. Maybe you're not fully rested. If you're not fully rested, take rest. You just can't force yourself, right? So there may be many, many factors for that, not just one factor. Or sometimes it may be the wrong food that you've eaten. For example, if you have just before you meditate, if you have eaten a lot of meat, then it produces a lot of heat, because of which you feel like sleeping, not like meditating. Your body becomes very, very heavy, right? So when you do meditation, the food should also, you should eat less food, little bit less food. Okay.
The next question, Geshe, is
No.
most jobs today are very profit driven and are quite competitive and aggressive. How to maintain a calm and loving mind when working at such jobs?
You need medicine when you're sick, not when you're healthy, right? So similarly, you need these practices when the job is demanding, when the surrounding situation is not so healthy, then you need Dharma. Loving kindness, compassion is much, much more needed in those situations than in a monastery or in a temple. The test of pudding is when you taste it, not just talking about it, right? Right? So therefore, these practices of love and compassion become more important in a difficult situation, in the workplace or with many people, whatever. So at that time, it is needed, just like the medicine, which is needed when you're sick, not when you're healthy. Okay?
And the next question from the same person, Geshe, is how can I cultivate faith in the fact that there is past and future lives?
Forget about past and future life. How can you develop faith for tomorrow? Can you develop faith for tomorrow? Right? How do you know that there will be tomorrow? What is the guarantee that there will be tomorrow? It's like that, Future life is like tomorrow. So in this case, you should use some reason and logic. Because the reason that we believe in future lives is because of the continuity of the mind. The body comes to an end, but the mind does not come to an end. it continues. So future life is explained on that basis. That's number one. Number two, for you, I think especially encouraging is nowadays there are many people who remember their past lives. Books and books have been written. 10 cases of reincarnation, 20 cases of reincarnation, 100 cases of reincarnation. There's so many books are there, right? People who remember vividly, very vividly, their past lives. Now, if there's past life, then it's a foregone conclusion that there will be future life. Because what now you are saying, talking about past life, that according to that past life, your life now is the future life at that time. So it is here now. Right? So read some of those stories told by people who remember their past life. That may also be useful. But then another way is like if you read sutra and some of the text that says, for example, if you lit one butter lamp, lit another butter lamp with another butter lamp, then the burning butter lamp is able to lit that butter lamp which is not burning. When this second butter lamp is burnt, the first butter lamp does not disappear. The continuity goes. Similarly, if I teach you certain prayers to recite, then gradually you're able to memorize it and you're able to recite it by heart. When you're able to do that, that doesn't mean that I will, the prayer that I know will disappear from my mind. I taught you, you learned it, you also have it. It came from me, so the continuity goes. Or it's just like a seal. When you put a seal on a piece of paper, the impression goes there. Nothing is lost from the seal. It continues. So there are like 8 or 9 examples given in the text to prove the future or past lives. And the most important thing is the continuity of the mind. Okay.
Geshe, I think Anastasia has questions to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Geshe, there is a few questions from Russian-speaking students. So Nika is asking, when Geshe would be ready to continue the teachings? We really ask to continue the teachings and really looking forward for the next events, for the next teachings.
Yeah, Sneh has already asked me this, and I answered her saying that because this teaching is spread in 4 weeks over a month, so that means if I teach it like we are doing right now, I should remain in Dharamsala for 1 month. Now in the coming months, I need to travel almost every month. So we will just find out a time suitable to all of us, and we'll continue. Yeah, and you will be told. Okay, that was easy question.
Yes, thank you, Geshe. And next question is from Irina. She's asking, she's sharing and then asks, teachers usually scold us, tell us how we should be, how we should become, what we should become. And then you understand that it's difficult to realize, actualize all these things, and you feel ashamed. And there is a feeling that you don't want to listen to the teachings anymore because you understand that you don't reach this level. And what to do? She asks what to do to practice patience or listen to.
No. You should be practical. Even those teachers who scold you, even they, whether they have that realization or not, nobody knows. But their advice is good advice. The point that I'm making is it's not only for you and for me, it's even for the teacher. It's not easy to develop these realizations. It's not easy. But not easy does not mean you can't make any progress. So don't try to become Buddha in 3 weeks. right? If you become a little bit better, a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more loving, a little bit more patient, it means you are making good progress. That is enough. And then, of course, to make more progress, try to put more time and make more effort, but with the happiness in the mind, not just forcing yourself because your teacher told you. Even if your teacher told you, if your mind is not liking to do that, if you force yourself, it will only create more problem. You will not achieve any success. So do your practice with happiness in the mind and see the progress before you become a Buddhist. And now at least you know so many things which you should not be doing. Before you become a Buddhist, you don't even know what is good, what is bad. Now at least you know. And because of that knowledge, I'm sure you stopped many bad things and started doing many good things. That is the right thing. So you're on the right track. So continue. Spiritual practice is like spiritual practice is food for the mind. Okay, because of some people say something, you don't stop eating your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and so forth. You will continue to eat whatever the teacher says or whatever other people say. You will continue to eat your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Similarly, the spiritual practice also, whatever other people say, you need to do this practice for your own goodness. Right? Okay.
Geshe oh, Neely, you can unmute yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Lhakdor, how are you?
I'm good, very good. How are you?
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
As much as we can.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, well, this is something that I'm asking myself the whole, for many years, but assuming that really we sort of hopefully understand intellectually, what you're talking about, all these precious things. It's not very easy, or at least I don't know how it can really be implemented when you are in a situation on moments of anxiety or fear or whatever you call it. I mean, really the transition between the theory, or I don't know, theory, but yeah, the understanding and the way it can really help. I mean, I can really contemplate the whole time on emptiness and try to understand it, this insight. But then when it comes to real situation, I don't know how it can be implemented. And this is really this is really the crux of the whole thing. So, yeah, well.
Yeah, so this is like this. If there is a patient who has been suffering from a chronic illness for many, many years, so to treat this patient, do you think just taking 1 or 2 tablets will cure that chronic disease? So it's like that. We are habituated with this fear, with the negative emotions for so many lives. Now with these small tablets and doses of spiritual medicine will not just change everything quickly. So therefore, in order to really be able to transform oneself, one has to really consolidate one's practice very strongly, continuously, so that you're able to see the lack of inherent existence of everything. When everything is designated, having no inherent existence, why do you develop fear? Fear also comes because of grasping. There is a very important teaching in this Arya Deva's 400 verses, where he says, since I've given up all kind of attachment, I have no fear. Meaning that if there's a fear, that means you have attachment.
Yeah.
And he says, because I've given all kinds of fear, I don't fear even death. That is found in Arya Deva's 400 verses. And then similarly, you've read Heart Sutra. In the Heart Sutra also there's a line which says that because the mind is free from obscuration, there is no fear. You have fear because the mind is obscured, doesn't know the reality. Right? So it will take time. But as I mentioned in my previous answer to the question, that all these things take time. But if you judge carefully and see carefully, then you can see that you are unable to remove all kind of fear and problem at one go. But you will realize that because of your having encountered this teaching and having made this attempt to practice this teaching in this, now in Israel, we all know that you have so many problems of this bombing and shelling and all these things. So even at such a time, I'm sure your process of thinking that you've learned has helped you.
So there, so there is a hope.
Of course.
With you always, with you always. I mean, you always see we say the half full
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah,
glass.
exactly.
Yeah, I know, I
Exactly.
know, I know. Okay,
Exactly.
so yeah, let's hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really happy that we had this opportunity. I think really, I want to thank, all these institutions that brought you to us all over the world, Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Next year in India.
Yeah, next year in India. Good idea.
Anastasia?
Yes, there's a question from Elsa. She asks, Geshe, could you please tell, is it allowed to study by yourself Nagrim Chenmo by Jetson Kappa? I purchased the book and I have strong aspiration to do it.
Yeah, read it. Read it. If things are not clear, don't make your own conclusion. Ask a qualified teacher. But otherwise, you should read it. Because in ancient times, these tantric teachings are said to be secret teaching. So people don't read it unless they have studied many years the sutric teachings. And then in the big monasteries like Sierra and Depungkanden also, they spend at least 15-20 years studying just the sutra. Only after that, then go to the upper tantric college, lower tantric college to study tantra. And His Holiness, I remember His Holiness the Dalai Lama suggesting that you should, while you study sutra, you should also study tantra. Because if you don't do that, while you've completed all your sutric studies, and then at that time it may be your time to die. You're already too old, you see. And then also, like I remember very well, we had 2 days meeting with Israeli scholars many years back. Some rabbis, we had 2 days very interesting discussion. So then in the Jewish tradition also there is like the Tibetan tradition, there is Sutra, Tantra, they have Kabbalah and the secret teachings and things like that. So there those rabbis present, they are doing the meeting, they said now the secret part of the Jewish tradition is almost lost. So His Holiness laughed and said, this is the disadvantage of keeping anything too secret. So therefore you should understand the meaning of secret in Tantra. Tantra is called secret not because you can't read anything like that. The secrecy should be kept in the sense of, for example, if I'm doing particular tantric practice, I should keep that personal practice secret. I should not go around proclaiming that I've been doing this practice, that practice, I've received this many initiations, things like that. Unnecessarily, if you go on proclaiming, that is breaking the secrecy. But secrecy does not mean you can't read any of the tantric books and things like that, you see. So that is, I think, wrong. Yeah, you should read it, but it is many things you will not know. So you should gradually ask the teachers to explain those things.
Shall we have one last English question? So the person is asking, how can we become more aware of our suffering, develop a sense of urgency to be free from samsara? We only commit to our practice seriously when we are experiencing great pain. But on most days when we are living comfortably, we don't have the sense of urgency. We're not aware of our suffering.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Therefore, the mind training teachers, they say that the unfavorable conditions are your real spiritual teacher. And sufferings are the means to purify your negative deeds. This is absolutely true. We are unable to do practice because we think samsara is quite good so far. I have no problem, you see. And Aryadeva in his 400 verses says that those who are not tired of this samsara will never develop respect to nirvana. And he gives example by saying, if you are somebody who is feeling very comfortable with this present location, house, you think there's good neighbor and everything, you're very happy with it, why should you think about moving to some other country, some other place? It's only when you have trouble in the place where you're living, then you start thinking about moving to other place. So now here in this case, don't just wait for, turbulent, experiences like sufferings and death of your relatives and things like that, but read the Four Noble Truth teaching. The first teaching is on suffering. So read about that. Then also read newspaper, the obituary part. Then, as I told you earlier also, how many people are dying in one day out of this over 8 billion human population? Millions are dying in a year. In a year, millions die. In a day, several thousands are dying. Even in a minute, people are dying. So you and I are not at all exception, right? So think about all these things. And then also think about those relatives and friends who died last year or year before. Your friends, your relatives. Think about that. You need to think repeatedly. Then there will be some change. The problem with us is we are unable to do our practice continuously. We do it just for a few days and then there's no sign. Then there is a teaching, you attend it, then you start thinking, okay, I'll do the practice. Then after the teaching, there's nothing. Then wait for another teaching. That's the problem. So you need to do your homework regularly. Regularly. Because in terms of death, there is no seniority. It is not always, guaranteed to say that the senior ones will die first and the young people will die later. No, there's no guarantee. Meaning that any of one of us can die anytime. Right? And nobody will come seeking an appointment and asking us when do you want to die? Right? So think about these things. Hopefully there will be some change. Yeah.
Anastasia?
Yes, one more last final Russian question. The person asks, some people tell about controlling the reality, manipulating the reality by the power of thoughts. If you have, how is it possible, or you receive only something which is connected to your karma? If you don't have karma to receive the result, nothing will happen. Or you can do something with your thoughts to change the reality with your thoughts.
It depends. Reality means what you experience or what is out there. For example, with your thought, you can't make interdependent origination as dependent origination. You can't make emptiness as having inherent existence. You can't make impermanence as permanent with your thinking. You can't change those things. They are reality. But reality in the sense of your experience of suffering and so forth, which are primarily product of your thinking, So in that case, if you really fine-tune your thinking, change your perception and attitude, then you can lessen those suffering. You can even transmute and change those sufferings. That is possible. That is possible. Okay.
Geshe-la, just on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for your presence and for your wonderful advice and teachings. And we will let everyone know when Geshe-la's schedule opens up and he can teach again. And also to thank Chechen Bai for translating for the past 4 weeks for all the Russian students, and Anastasia for helping with all the questions and the recordings for the Russian students. And everybody from our co-hosting centers, both the Tushita centers in India and Jamyang, London, thank you so much. And for all of you from all over the world who are tuning in for Geshe-la's teachings, so wonderful to see all of you. And you're all unmuted now, so if you want to express your greetings to Geshe-la, you can do so.
Tujiche, Geshe-la, tujiche.
Yeah, if you are very powerful, send me a kadak. or give me a cup of tea through the television screen.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Tujinang,
Okay, thank
tujinang.
you.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Anastasia has a kappa for you, Geshe-la.
Oh, yeah, send it to me.
Gracias,
Send it to me.
Geshe-la.
She has no power to send it to me. She's just showing it.
Nashi Delek.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Take
so
good
much.
care.
Thank you.
Thank
Take good care. See you again very soon. Maybe in Dharamsala or maybe online, whatever. Take good care. Be happy. Be happy. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Tashi Dele.